Okay, today I'm going to be doing my 5 themes of geography presentation on the theme of movement. And I'm going to be focusing on airport security methods before and after 9/11. So, let's start with what movement is. And everyone knows that movement is the study of human movement around the world. This human movement could involve travel, distance, ideas, fads, goods, resources, and communication. So basically, human movement patterns could include anything from culture to fashion to where people like to travel, where tourist locations are, and things like that. So basically, I'm going to be focusing on how human movement was restricted when 9/11 happened through airport security. Okay, so what is 9/11? Most of you, well, probably all of you, definitely know what 9/11 is. It was the terrorist attacks that happened on September 11th, 2001. And 9/11 was a series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks that well, they were all connected because they were all done by the same group called Al Qaeda. And this was an Islamic group that did not like the United States. And it happened because there was 19 hijackers and they made their way through the U.S. security system in airports. They were flying through multiple international flights, and at this time, the United States security system was built to only look for guns and explosives. At this time, you could take knives, box cutters, any small item like that, razors, whatever, onto the flight with you because those weren't considered a weapon at the time, which now they definitely are. But this is basically how they got through there. And 3 or 4 of the guys actually set off the alarms in the airports as they were going through airport security, and they were scanned with metal detectors and everything. But since the box cutters that were hooked to the back of their pants were not considered weapons, they got right through security. So when the hijackers got on the plane, at this point in time, it was not required that the cockpits of the aircraft were locked. And so what is thought is that they got in the cockpit and killed the pilots and took over the plane. And so you can see in this photo that the hijackers took over the plane and flew them directly into the World Trade Centers. And of course, when you fly a plane into almost 100-story buildings, it's going to cause some major problems. So, as you can see, the planes were going right into the World Trade Centers, and it was catching them on fire, making the buildings collapse. And due to this, there were hundreds and thousands of people that died that were working in the World Trade Centers. The people on the flights died. People that were around the World Trade Centers that got hit by debris died. It was a very horrible terrorist attack. And this is a picture of kind of what New York City looked like after the attacks. It left the city in complete ruins. Okay, before 9/11, flying was pretty easy. International travel, any type of travel, was extremely easy. I mean, there weren't very detailed security measures. Um, Passengers were not actually even required to go through body scanning. Only random security checks were taken if necessary, and they only used the hand metal detectors. All liquids that you took on the flight with you were accepted. They didn't have to be in transparent containers or anything like that. On the aircraft, passengers were pretty free to get up and move as they wished, and they weren't required to get in their seats, and the cockpit could be open and things like that. And before 9/11, screening in airports was provided by private companies. And these companies were contracted by either the airline or the airport. So it would be like today, it would be like Allegiant Airlines contracting out their own company to take security measures, or say the Lexington Airport contracting a company to do security measures for every airline that goes through that airport. TSA. What is TSA? TSA is the Transportation Security Administration. And TSA was introduced in November of 2001 to take over airport security screening. So obviously they took immediate action after the terrorist attacks and really upped security measures and tried to basically imagine different things that could happen, and so they upped security measures. This is a photo of some different TSA officers, and this is exactly what airline security lines look like. If you've flown recently, you know they're not very convenient, but they are very detailed in the security measures that are taken. TSA's job is a very difficult one. It's a program to develop new security measures that are necessary to keep pilots and passengers safe on flights. So it's a very important job because obviously things that are very dangerous can happen. TSA is so important because they kind of have to think ahead of many different types of people, like terrorists and things like that, because they have to be imaginative enough to predict new terrorist methods before they happen, and they have to change security measures to prevent these things from happening. So they kind of have to be way ahead of the game and have a major imagination to think of new ways that people could harm others on flights. Directly after 9/11, TSA made some major changes to the security measures, and one of the changes was that TSA decided that they were going to train and certify their pilots to carry firearms. And this is because just in case somebody did get in the cockpit where the pilots are, they would be able to defend themselves, where before they weren't armed and they really had no defense. Cockpit doors are now bulletproof and locked, so they are completely fortified. You cannot get in them, and before the flight even starts, they are closed and you can't even see the pilots. And some aircrafts are now equipped with CCTV cameras, and these are kind of similar to the cameras that are in school buses now, where it shows the pilots what activity is going on in the cabin. So as you're flying, pilots can actually see you and see what's going on throughout the flight. So they are more aware, though the cockpit doors are bulletproof and locked, they can see you and they know what's going on. More changes that took place through TSA after 9/11 was that they really improved their screening technology and methods. Before nobody hardly had to go through full body scanners and things like that. And so something new that they introduced was milliliter wave millimeter wave advanced technology. And this was a new way of screening, and this is what they put your luggage through, and on the lines that go through your luggage, this is what scans your luggage and shows them pictures of what is inside, sort of like an x-ray but more detailed. And the full body scanners were implemented, and at first they were very similar, or they were basically x-ray images, and they were specific to each person's body. So say you had a more curvy person, the image would be more curvy. But say you had a really skinny person, it would be a really skinny image. It showed exactly what your body looked like. And this created a problem because people viewed it as a privacy issue, an invasion of their privacy, and people didn't like it. So the TSA thought about ways that they could still have the x-ray images but still give people their privacy. And so they created generic images. This photo is a picture of the millimeter wave advanced technology. It's a picture of the inside of someone's luggage, and exactly they can see everything that is in there. This is exactly what the full body screeners look like. You walk in and put your hands up sort of in a jumping jack position, and it just screens your whole entire body, looking for weapons, explosives, anything like that. This is an example of what the images looked like before. The top image is the ones that were specific to people's bodies, the ones that created a privacy issue. As you can see, nothing is left to the imagination. So it was a privacy invasion. So the bottom picture is what they see now. Every person, it's the same image that is viewed, but it just shows you where the alarm is going off on the certain part of the body. More changes that took place through TSA after 9/11 is that a thing called Secure Flight was invented. And Secure Flight is a screening program that decides low and high risk passengers prior to arriving at the airport. So if you've flown recently, you've probably heard of TSA pre-approved. Basically, what this is that when you purchase a flight and you put in all of your information, it researches you, and it can either put you on a list for low risk passenger or a high risk passenger. And if you are deemed a low risk passenger, you can be TSA pre-approved, meaning that you will not have to go through such lengthy security measures as other people. More changes that took place after 9/11 through TSA are that there are more air marshals on domestic and international flights, and every passenger 18 years and older must have a valid ID that matches their boarding pass, and only in special circumstances are people allowed to fly without an ID. So this is a picture of a boarding pass and an ID. As you can see, the name Test R Bird matches from American Airlines boarding pass to Test R Bird's driver's license. And this is what they look at this multiple times as you go through the security lines to make sure that they match. What is an air marshal? An air marshal is a covert law enforcement or counter-terrorist agent on board a commercial aircraft to counter aircraft hijackings. So most of the time, these people, you won't even know that they're air marshals. They will be dressed as normal people. They're going to look normal. They're going to act normal. They're there just in case something happens. And this is a photo of air marshals being trained. They are armed, and they will be there to counteract if there are any hijackings or terrorist attacks on the airplane. And there are some changes in airport security that have taken place due to other circumstances. In December of 2001, just 3 months after the September 11th terrorist attacks, a man named Richard Reed snuck explosives on an aircraft in his shoes. And passengers are now required to remove their shoes while they're going through security scanners. He failed to detonate the bombs that were in his shoes, but since they found them, now people have to remove their shoes. Another circumstance that caused changes was in 2006. A terrorist failed again at an attempt to detonate hydrogen peroxide based bombs on an aircraft from a liquid bottle. Someone took hydrogen peroxide and made a mixture, and it was an explosive. Well, they had it in a liquid bottle that wasn't transparent and it wasn't small, and so the airport security didn't catch it. Now you might be wondering, how in the world does this all relate to geography? Well, we're thinking about human movement, right? And we're thinking about the movement of ideas and fashions and communication measures and fads and things like that. And so, with these restrictions on travel, it makes it difficult for some people to travel, and so it restricts how things are moved. And when you don't have all of these things moving, it makes it harder to transport cultures and things like that because people aren't mixed as much. And these are my references. Thanks.